Welcome to the Executive Hub Show, the show that helps you grow your business with simple tips and strategies from successful entrepreneurs. Today, we're talking about how to become an entrepreneurial rock star. My guest is William West. Welcome, William.
Hey there, how are you?
Great to see you. How's your day so far?
It's been a good day. Yeah,
Beauty, where about are you?
I am in Southern California, midway between San Diego and Los Angeles, in a little cute little surfer town called Dana Point.
Very nice. Very nice. So, gang, we're going to talk about how to become an entrepreneurial rock star. Let me do the proper introduction to William. We're going to dive into a very interesting introduction. We're going to talk about AI, schools, preventing children from getting into fights, safety, and the rest of it. So, with 3 decades of leadership, William founded 5 startups and served as a senior executive at the 4 largest publicly traded L&D providers, driving the global adoption of e-learning, gaming, social learning, and an AI in workforce development. Recognized internationally, he has been featured on CBS 60 Minutes and Forbes, named a top 5 AI startup in California, and listed on the Inc. 5000 10 times. Partnering with top firms across 13 industries, he has won over 100 product awards, including top 3 international training company and first place international development team, solidifying his impact on the learning industry. William, great to have you.
Thanks.
Um, so let's get into it. What is your story?
My story. Um,
Yes.
I got my degree in artificial intelligence, and up until 2 years ago, that wasn't worth much. I got really good at programming TV remotes and my family's, wireless routers. But that was
Sorry for
about
the
it.
interruption. Sorry for the
Yeah.
interruption. When did you get your degree in AI?
Oh, no, no, no. You don't really want to ask that question.
Is that like a
19,
while ago? Or is that recently?
1987.
There was AI back then?
It was mostly philosophical, but we used languages like Lisp and Scheme, and it was very, very difficult
Oh
to
my
do
goodness.
anything interesting.
Sorry for the interruption. Please continue.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
No, and that's
I didn't know it existed back then.
it comes full circle because honestly, up until just about 2 years ago, when I started doing what I'm doing now, you couldn't do much with AI unless you had some serious, engineers behind you. So I got lucky enough in some ways to get pulled into education technology soon after that. I joined Anderson Consulting, and they were working on CBT, computer-based training, and I was the guy who knew what the C stood for, and everybody else was focused on the training, and that's what really led my entire career as I focused on different types of computing, whether it's distributed computing or the web or mobile and game. It just elevated as new technology came out. Education was a context that allowed me to experiment with all these new techs and build businesses around these new techs as they happened. Right, we were still delivering content in some way, but then we started using the web to do it, and then we started using the phone to do it, and then social media to do it, and games to do it, and then before this effort, it was virtual reality, where we were able to do really, really exciting things, but it was all in the context of education technology. So the companies that I started were all on that timeline of elevating and evolving through those different technologies until where I am now, which is focused on artificial intelligence. And I've been fortunate. The awards are great. There's no doubt. And they're on that list. But it's really the employees, the ability to actually build businesses, have people come there, especially young people, watch them build a family and buy their first home, and feel really good that you were able to do something to the community and a social, while making money and building something you're proud of. But at the same time, the real reward is the ability to actually provide a livelihood for others.
Love it. So, how did you end up doing AI and studying AI in 1987? And did a lot of people call you crazy for doing it?
No, I think there were probably 9 people in my graduating class at Indiana University. And they've always been doing a lot of stuff in AI, and they're really well known for it as well. But it sounded fascinating. It was a lot harder. And I just kind of had put it aside. It's helped, Honestly, if people want to talk about AI, where we are right now, up until 2 years ago, a lot of what I'm doing right now just couldn't be done
Yeah.
unless you had a full fleet of engineers building it from scratch. Um, it couldn't be done. Unless you had some high-powered computing devices, it couldn't be done. Now, the hardware is there, the power's there. Now it's the pieces are there. So now you're talking about architects piecing things together to build something useful, as opposed to having to build it from the ground up. It's tremendously exciting. And in just the last 2 years, it's just accelerated so fast. We're able to do more and more really interesting things for a lot less cost.
Fantastic. Well, the reason I asked that question is even 10 years ago when the major talks of AI started around the globe, especially in North America, and there was still nothing going on, but it was a hype about AI.
Mhm.
And because there was no results and there was no tangible like software like today that we're using, people are like, "What the hell are you spending your time on? What is this whole AI thing?" So I was just thinking like 1987, like there was just nothing going on back there.
No, there really wasn't. Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
Wow. So, what do you do today? Who do you serve, and what do you do for them?
So the company now, we're focused on protecting kids. I started researching really good ways for AI to be used through visual computer vision and such. How do you take cameras and what could AI do with those images that the cameras come through? And studied it, tried to figure out what the answers were, experimented in a couple different industries. And while we were doing that, we were looking at the hospitality industry and other areas. The school shootings just kept happening, and we kept
Hmm.
asking ourselves, do you think we could do something? Can it really work? And I was literally on campus at UNLV in one building talking about how potentially AI could be used to stop human trafficking when there was a shooting in the building next to us, and two students got shot. And it was really this calling, like, we got to stop talking about this. Because after every single shooting, we would see the same thing. People would talk about, gun control, which is a useless conversation, or they would talk about mental health as if there was sort of this, sobriety test you could send people through, and then they would send their thoughts and prayers, which angered everybody just to hear the words. So we looked at this and said, no, we can do something. And so we used AI to build a system that would help reduce school violence, potentially prevent the shootings, and make a huge difference in the world, in an area where I think it's the United States, second biggest embarrassment right now is the school shooting issue. So we really felt, and so we did. We took the leap, and I think it's really going to pay off well for us.
So, what's the first embarrassment?
I'm going to hold my political opinions to myself.
All right. Okay. Okay. I guess I know where that's going. Um, um, so tell us about. I know school shooting is a problem. Tell me more about the problems that you solve and how do you solve them.
Sure. And it's a really good point because we talk about the market and competition and stuff, how we differentiate ourselves. The school shootings are a problem. It's horrific, but it's only 1% of all the school violence that occurs on an annual basis. What we focus on is that other 99%:
Okay.
fights, harassment, bullying, accidents and falls, those kinds of things that are really important for the safety, the day-to-day safety of the interior of a school. So those are the things that we're focused on right now. The competition is focused on the school shootings and weapons stuff, and that's great. We've actually got decent relationships with most of them. It's really important. And we have to do that too, right? I'm not in business if I can't identify weapons, right? But it's what can we do to make the teacher, the student, and the parents feel better about what's going on day to day within the school.
Okay. So, how much lead time does your system give the school about the different types of violence? Like, how much in advance do we know that something is about to happen?
That was the big challenge or the big requirement because we're talking about seconds. Most of the really horrific events take place in less than 7 minutes. And so for us, it's a matter of how do we reduce the response time to try to minimize that. particular thing. So what we did is, the AI recognizes that something's happening, a nefarious event, whatever it might be. And a lot of the competition, they like, okay, let's put it on the security monitor, or let's send it to an outside firm, and then let's call 911. What we do is when an event is identified, all of the faculty and staff get an indication on their cell phone, and they can see a live video of what's happening and a map that shows where it's happening. So, we always talk about teachers being superheroes. We're giving them X-ray vision. So now they can make a decision, because right now they're in a classroom, they hear commotion. Well, they don't know really what's causing the commotion, let alone where it is and what to do with the kids. So the first rule in the safety plans of schools is run, get the kids out of the school. Well, that's easy to do if you actually know where the assailant is. But if you don't know where the assailant is, all you can do is lock yourself in. So that should reduce significantly the response time to intervening with the situation, but then the increase of people's safety. It goes farther. So now when 911 shows up, they can use the app to see through walls. So now they come up to the building, they know where the assailant is, what they're doing, and they can form a plan for intervening.
Right. So we could have up to 7 minutes before something is happening.
Unfortunately, that's kind of the way it works. Yeah. Now, again, we're talking about the shootings. Now, if it's a fight or a fall, so I've talked to recently a teacher, and she does the outdoor classroom, and she pulled a hip muscle. After the students had left, she pulled a hip muscle, fell. Nobody saw her. Nobody saw that she was there. There was no way of knowing that she was there until a maintenance guy walked by. So it doesn't have to be the shootings. It's all those other things. We're working with a vocational institute out in Boston, and they have a lot of underprivileged kids and challenged children that may have Down syndrome or autism, runners. These kids, they're like 95% of the time, they're perfectly fine. And then they just take off and leave. University is the same way. You have two people running across the campus. Are they running to class, or is one chasing the other? The ability for AI to make those kinds of decisions is going to make a whole lot of really great things outside of the school shootings.
So then, is the system now able to predict some behavior patterns, saying this person seems like he is about to, or she's about to do something that we're not going to like?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
Yeah. We'll get there. That's the part of the machine learning aspects of it. We'll get there eventually, with being able to recognize that. There was a shooting in Michigan State 2 years ago that was really a catalyst for us, and there were 8 kids killed. And I was asked, "Do you think you could have stopped the first one?" And I said, I really don't, because I can't tell their intent. I don't know that this guy, unless he pulled the gun out and was walking around with it, then maybe. But after that first kid was shot, hell yeah, we could have stopped the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. He wouldn't have been able to run across campus doing all kinds of damage with a solution like ours.
This just popped in my mind. Have you guys maybe tried to grab videos of previous shootings and see if there is any common patterns that are happening in behavior that we could get AI to recognize those kind of patterns?
Well, it's exactly what we do. That's
Okay.
the training of the AI. We take reams and reams of video of shootings, or falls, or fights, or whatever we're trying to build a model around, so that it gets better and better at identifying that. Over time, as we've got it installed in multiple schools and we're collecting that data, theoretically the system should be getting smarter and smarter, and then we can start dabbling into some things that are more nuanced, like the intent, those things.
Love it.
Yeah.
So I know you talked about violence, harassment, bullying, and the rest of it. Do you guys have any focus or any goals on working with mental health for kids? For example, identifying this kid is not looking good. Looks like something is going on mentally, for example,
Yeah.
not violence, but is that a thing for you guys?
We have a couple internal projects at play right now to try to figure out the best way to do that, and we've worked with or partnering with a couple different organizations that are very niche providers. One organization, for example, has a VR solution that's supposed to help diagnose. So we're looking at a lot of different opportunities to try to figure out what we might be able to do. with mental health. We're doing it with bullying as well. Bullying is so nuanced.
Yeah,
It's not as easy to identify as a fight is. So we're already looking ahead at what we might be able to do, and how to do it, and then how to position it as well. It's you can understand that the type of reaction a parent might have when they find out that the school is now assessing their kid for mental health issues. You got to be a little careful with the way you're going to talk about it, and you better darn well be sure that the system works before you start putting it out there. So
for sure.
yeah,
Yeah,
so we
and I'm
hit.
guessing there were. Yeah, go ahead.
I would just say we hit the big targets first, and we'll work on the
Absolutely.
way
I'm
out.
guessing there would be like some sort of a human confirmation on what the AI would pick. Like, you know, the AI says, well, this kid might be not feeling good today. Maybe something's going on. Have a chat with her. And then somebody comes in and says, yeah, it looks like it is the case. Or no, it was a false positive. Let's move on.
Right, right. It's indicators, and the primary technology we have now, it's all about indicators as well. The human elements is fundamental. The AI can only do so much to identify something's going on, and then you've got to have the human that comes in. As I said, we don't have gun turrets that come out of the cameras to reinforce.
Right.
Right?
Right.
It's just like, no, we recognize and alert. That's what we do. We recognize something's going on. We alert the appropriate people, and now it's the human factor.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's work in a case study, keeping, I guess, as much privacy as you have to. Give us an example of a client you work with, how you found them, and what was the challenge that you guys helped them overcome.
Well, talking specifically about ProTech and the AI surveillance, we've kind of all right. There's a couple different. First of all, you have to understand. So within the schools, there's 115,000 schools in the country. That's a lot of schools, and they are gathered into districts. And so if you go to a place like my hometown of Bloomington, Indiana, it's got 3 high schools, it's got a handful of middle schools and elementary schools that are all part of one district. The superintendent oversees that district. So the superintendent has the purse strings. The funding comes from the state or from the federal government, and they've got a set of money and priorities. And luckily for us, the priority for security is number 1 and number 2 in almost every district. So there's a high need for what we do. So knowing who has the purse strings is important, but then focusing on who the influencers are for that. Well, the influencers are going to be the people on the school boards. It's going to be the parents themselves. It could be a number of things. So in some cases, the superintendents have come straight to us and they're all excited about it. In others, we know we've got a superintendent who's got the ability, but then who are we going to? Sometimes we're talking to this guy in charge of security. Sometimes we're talking to somebody else. So figuring out who the influencers are really important. I use a metric that was invented by a company called Infomenace, and it was called an influence matrix. And it helps to identify in each case who we really need to be talking to, not just who's got the money, but who's going to start to do it. So for one university, for example, we started off with the athletic director. And we went to the athletic director of the university and said, we can help protect your stadium. And we knew that was an issue. And he said, well, let me get you in touch with the guy in charge of our security. And so we met with that guy, and he turned out to be sort of the chief of police of the university. And he goes, no. He's like, yeah, stadium. We got these other 2 buildings that are a problem right now. Can we go look at those as well? So while we wanted to come in and protect maybe dorms and classrooms, the university had its own priorities. So figuring out who the influencers were and figuring out what Chasm calls the compelling reason to buy, that's been what's most important. It's not always the same at every school.
Love it. That is amazing. I love what you guys are doing. It's really different, like in terms of type of AI that is being used right now. I mean, there's a lot of content creation and image creation, which is very nice. Nothing wrong about it, but protecting kids' safety is a huge issue. And
yeah, I think each of the the businesses that I've had. And I think this is true for any entrepreneur who's building a business. You got to figure out what your mission is for the business. You got to focus on making sure you're solving a real problem that people want to solve, not just one that you think exists because you think your technology is really cool. But I would say that your passion towards it is just as important. Why do you get out of bed every day? What we do as entrepreneurs is really freaking hard. There's, you're swinging without a net. It is one challenge after another, and you are making it up as you go along half the time because no one's done it before. Or you're head to head against somebody who's been doing it for quite a while and has a head start on you, but you still think you can beat them. If you don't have a passion behind what it is you're doing, you're likely to quit. You're not going to be motivated to get out of bed and try to do it every time. So I think each of the companies I've had, there's been a passion behind different circumstances each time. But I just think that's vital. Otherwise, it's just stuff on paper, and the first sign of failure, people quit.
100%. Now, William, was there like a personal attachment to saving kids and doing this around kids for you? Like, was there an event for you, or how did you get into just focus into just this aspect of AI?
Yeah, I've been fortunate that nothing's happened to me personally. No one that I know has been part of that. I've just been, sort of the witness like the rest of us. And each time seeing the results, thinking, they're just sweeping it under the rug until it happens again. And I'm thinking about the parents. I'm thinking about the governor. I'm thinking about all these people now. They're trying to figure out what do we do to stop it next. And it really was the Michigan State shooting because I went to Indiana and the thing happened in our conference, but Indiana was also the next team in basketball that played Michigan State after that shooting. And the Indiana team came out with Michigan State jerseys on to show solidarity behind the whole thing. And it just really struck me because every time we saw these shootings, there was a camera that took a picture of it. You can see a picture of the assailant and every one of the kids that the assailant shot, but the camera wasn't doing anything to intervene with it. It was just recording the events for forensics afterwards. And I thought, well, what if we could set it up so that somehow the camera could be the indication on how we would intervene in some way. And then when I was at UNLV and it happened in the building right next to us, I just said, I got to stop talking about this. We need to do it.
Love it. So, share with us some of the milestones that you guys have achieved along the way since you started this company.
Well, getting it to work was the first one.
Yeah.
I think, so, and getting it to work with the basics, and then having, we were invited to a state. The state had just had a school shooting. It was Wisconsin, right before Christmas. And the next week, we were invited by the superintendent conference that was about to be held later that month. We were invited to come and talk to them. They carved a special section of the corner of their expo floor for us. We hadn't signed up, we hadn't paid anything, and they're like, we need a response. And so that really showed to us that we were onto something. To be able to go there by invitation and be able to meet people. So that was a big one. I think the second one was when the schools started to offer up new features that they would like to see and give us new scenarios that we hadn't seen before. And that's where the runners came in and how important that was. I think that was a pretty significant milestone for us too. It showed that we really had a lot of opportunities long term for us. Those are the two. You don't get into this, sales and that kind of stuff because that's boring. But those are the two that really, I think, were monumental for us in reinforcing that we were doing the right thing and that we had a chance to succeed.
Fantastic. And what were some of the challenges that you faced while reaching those milestones?
The big challenge is just the response. The tendency with the development team was to try to use a cloud solution for all the right reasons. The issue is that the business circumstances that our response time has to be measured in a matter of seconds. And so can we get the video feed and can we get the video feed to the cloud and back again and to the mobile alerts in a reasonable amount of time?
Oh yeah.
And the answer was no. We have to do on premise. The other piece also is how good does it have to be before we feel good about rolling it out. It's never going to be 100%. Is 80 enough? Does it need to be 90? With certain things like the weapons, it's got to be pretty darn close to 100. I think false positives are fine, but you don't want to miss one. Down in Nashville, Tennessee, one of our competitors was installed there and they missed one. And they had a shooting in Nashville, literally while we're in Wisconsin, trying to help Wisconsin figure things out. Another shooting took place in Tennessee, and their software didn't see the weapon. There's reasons why. So that was a learning experience for us.
What
for
were
us
some
as
of those
well.
reasons that they didn't recognize it?
It had to do with the distance and the placement of the camera. As the assailant had their back to the camera and drew the gun, and then turned in such a way that they weren't seen by the camera, where they were able to get some shots off and such. So that's their problem, not mine. But that was clearly there was some issues that took place. So the big challenge is how do we make sure we can get the results in seconds instead of minutes, and then how much is good enough from a confidence level for each of these.
And, and I'm guessing that lighting and camera quality plays a huge role in this too.
Yeah, we've got a really, really good partner. Chris Watkins out of Johnstown, Pennsylvania, has been working with me for a couple of years now. His firm does a fantastic job in a lot of different venues. And so, he does our first testing because he really thinks about that way. He thinks about frame rates. He thinks about lighting, thinks about distance. We try to do a site survey with our clients so we can take a look at the layout of the school, because they're all different, and where the cameras are. Are there cameras that are missing? Some cameras need to be coded a different way depending on how far away they are. All those things. So having partners as part of the business has been inspirational to us. So I don't have to have that expertise, and my guys, don't have to be just, they're not good enough. I want to get somebody who's great, and then partner with them.
Love it. Any other challenges you've been facing along the way?
It's a startup. It's challenges all the time. Hiring my sales guys was tough. Now I ended up with 2 rock stars, but man, it's exhausting amount of time that it takes to post the resumes, to look at the resumes, and we've all been there. You interview so many people that by the time you're interviewing the 20th person, you forgot the name of the second person who,
Oh yeah.
maybe was really good at the time. That's been the big challenge. Other aspects of the business hasn't been a challenge that most entrepreneurs face. The fundraising has gone fairly easy. Those were we haven't had a whole lot of other challenges beyond that.
Fantastic. Love it.
Yeah.
What would you say is holding you or your business back right now?
Just the speed of development. I've got the sales team and the development team in a horse race. Sales team and marketing are trying to stay ahead of development, but not too far ahead, so that we don't end up making commitments to a client that we can't fulfill. And there's only so much sometimes I can do about that when I've got both horses are, they're healthy and they're running, and I just got to sit back and kind of wait. But that's probably it right now as a startup. It's like, get the product done, make sure the market's ready. We don't want a product when we don't have a market. We don't want a bunch of sales when we don't have a product, right? It's the challenge that you face, but that's where it is.
So your product is operating right now,
Yeah, it
right?
works.
Right. So is it not the case where like we could sell it to does it make a difference if you sell it to 20 schools or 20,000
That's a good
schools?
question, because we have a strategy on how to sell to 20,000 student schools. Right now, we're making a conscious choice to sell it to a small number. So we make sure we get it right. We want to master this whole process. The product's great. I love my team, but we got to master the process, because that's where everything can go wrong when it comes to to the installation. So we've got a select few that we are working with, a school, a suburban school outside of a massive city, a huge vocational school that's got 140 acres and 30 buildings and a working farm, and then a Big Ten university. which we got a couple other we're focused on, but I don't want many more. I want to see those successful. We're still a small team, so we don't need 20,000 schools to be successful right now. And the revenue is really nice for what we're doing. So right now it's focused on, let's get the process right. Let's make these schools really, really successful, because what we do know, and this is true of a lot of industries, but definitely in the education industries, is it's very reference based. That if we're successful in one district, the neighboring districts are going to want a piece of that as well. We know for a fact that if you can nail one of the major schools in a big conference, that the other schools in that conference are going to want to know what you're up to as well. They all share information. I was one of the CIOs at a Big Ten university for 5 years, and it was definitely one of the things that I discovered is it didn't matter whether it's the fundraising group, the alumni group, the athletics group, they all get together once a year and share ideas. So if we're successful with one, then that next year we get together and share ideas with all the others. And then we get them, then all of a sudden you've got, 10, 12 more schools coming on board. But if we screw it up on one, we're not invited to that session. And it's going to be that much harder to settle into those other 17 schools if you blew it on one of them. So it's been intentional for us to get to this point and say, okay, slow down. Let's do it. Let's really focus on this next stage. And the school calendars work in our favor to do that as well at this point,
Now, are you guys getting a lot of demand and requests for your system?
We hired a PR firm to finally get the word out about who we are. So right now it's just been outreach. Okay. We've been doing the research. The beautiful thing about this industry is the money trail. We know exactly how much each school got and what they got it for, and we know exactly how much they spent on each one of our competitors and what they spent it for. So it's been easy for us to do that. So these first one came in as we were reaching out. But hiring a PR firm was really important for this particular project because there are 115,000 schools, and we can't knock on all those doors. There are 9,000 colleges. We can't knock on all these doors. So our ability to get the word out about who we are and really appeal to people, that should bring more traffic to us and make it a lot easier. Yeah.
Love it. Amazing. So we talked about the topic of our show was how to become a rock star entrepreneur. Let's talk about that a little bit. How did you become the entrepreneur that you are today?
Well, I've been referred to as the reluctant entrepreneur. It was a leap of faith. I had been one of the CIOs at the university for 5 years, and then the .com era was all of a sudden really high, and there was a lot of temptations to join a .com, and I happened to get lucky and find one. The development VP was a partner that I'd worked for at Arthur Andersen, which was my first employer out of college. And for 2 years, we were partnering with, Stanford, Columbia, Carnegie Mellon, some other great schools to build an online MBA program. And it looked great, and we're doing fine. But then the .com became .bomb, and the economy collapsed, and then Two Towers collapsed. And so that company really, disappeared almost overnight. And what I had was the team I'd built, about 40 people, of some of the best course developers I'd ever imagined, especially the media team that got us on 60 Minutes. And so I looked around this group and I said, let's see if we can't do this on our own. And I asked them to give me 3 days. Give me 3 days to have one of the CEOs of one of the primary companies in the industry call me back. And if they call me back in 3 days, and now you have to give me 3 weeks. So in 3 weeks, let me get a project. Let me go out there and find somebody who's going to pay us money to do what we do and get a project. And then if we did that, they can give me 3 months for us all to get paid for the work that we're doing. And they did that for the most part. We started off with 40 interested parties. Then we had 25 to do the projects. By the end of the first year, we had 9 people, and that was all. So, but we didn't give up. And after 8 years, we achieved some amazing things. We were able to sell the company. A couple years later, I exited, and most of the team stayed intact for several years now. I forget what it is. They've been sold so many times now. So I was the reluctant entrepreneur. It wasn't something I really set out to do. It's just a circumstance where I'm like, I think I can do that. We literally were incorporated on 9/11. This is how we started. This is how bad it was.
2001?
10 o'clock in the morning on 9/11, I thought this was the dumbest idea I'd ever had, you know?
Wow. That's in 2001, right? On the day of?
Yeah, 9 o'clock in the morning, September
My
11,
goodness.
2001 was when our incorporation papers were stamped. Yeah.
Wow.
After that,
And what was the business you were starting back
what's
then?
that?
What was the business you were starting back
e-learning.
then?
We were doing custom development of
Okay.
e-learning, and we got really, really good at it. That's where, coming up with the right brand was important for that, because there were a zillion e-learning companies running around at that time, and we had to figure out a way how to distinguish ourselves. And we did. We ended up working with the #1 company in 13 different industries. We had, our first 3 Inc. 5000 awards, and then a bunch of other stuff. We figured it out. And the beautiful thing about e-learning is it just kept growing. Because as each technology came out, the learning department was, the first to try to figure out how to use it. How do they take courses on their cell phone instead of on the class? How do we make social media work within learning? What about games? Can we do that? So it turned out to be a really good context for dabbling in all the technologies.
Fantastic. Is there any person, somebody in your life that had an influence on your business journey?
There's a lot. In fact, I would say that as an entrepreneur, you want to surround yourself with people that are a lot smarter than you, and can influence. A guy named Jeff Jones is one of my biggest ones. He's become a friend and a mentor, but he was on my advisory team when I started the first company. He was one of our first clients at the time. He has repeatedly stepped in when I was challenged to try to help me work through things. He's the lead investor on ProTech, and so he's always been light years ahead of me, but still finding a way for me to kind of ride on his coattails. He's in the education field as well, so his teachers and administrators are also his clientele, like they are mine. So there's not a lot of nice cross sharing of opportunities between us as well. But he's the one that's given me the really sage advice, such as the focus on people first, then focus on your product, then focus on your process, then focus on your profit. If you don't have the right team and you don't have a worthwhile product, and you can't consistently deploy, then what are you talking about profit? But if you do those well, the money will be there, and then you can decide. And that was really sage advice for a company like this one.
Fantastic. Now, William, if you had to go back and give yourself a piece of advice when you first started, say, this new venture, what would it be?
You mean the first one or this one?
No, this one. How long has this been around?
Just over 2 years is
all right. So if you could time travel to 2 years ago, what advice would you give yourself?
Wait. Because when we parted 2 years ago, we were trying to do this custom because there wasn't a product out there to platform. I'd say wait a year, because a year later there were platforms all over the place that made development a whole lot easier. I would say that when it comes to fundraising, that it's less important than most people think it is, and I would go for smaller numbers through people that I trust and who know me and trust me, than to do the traditional VC route. And I really firmly believe that. I've had a whole lot more success and a lot more fun working with people who truly believe in me, that I've known forever, that put smaller dollars in, but it adds up, than I did working with people who are showing up with really large checks, but I don't know them. And it's not until all of a sudden, the weather starts getting really bad and you've got some new shipmates to figure out exactly what their metal's like and who's pointing fingers at who, because things go wrong. And it's entrepreneurship. Things go wrong all the time. that would be the other advice. The 2 times that I've raised money from external people that I really didn't know very well didn't work out nearly as well as the times when I raised money from people who knew me already. Literally had one organization that said, they're like, we have no idea what you're doing, but we trust you. And that's all, what more do you need, right?
Absolutely. Um, amazing, amazing. Fact to slow. Well, I guess, but back then you did it. Did you know that a year later all of these things are going to become available?
Of course not. No,
Yeah.
no.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no way of
Oh,
predicting what was going to happen. Yeah.
for sure, for sure. What do you enjoy about being an entrepreneur the most?
I think it's creating something from nothing. It is, of course, developing employees and helping people, raise their kids, raise their family, and providing a really good livelihood. That's incredibly addictive. Um, but it's the something from nothing. It's the it's having the challenge that the client gives you and coming up with the solution that nobody else could think of that really solved the issue, the problem that they had. And we used to call it the enthusiastic approval. When the job was done, I didn't just want you to pay the invoice. We wanted, you to reference us to the next job and such. When we first went into Microsoft, we went in there with no game plan. We had a $10,000 project, and within 4 years, we were pulling 2.5 million a year out of them because they kept telling their friends. The first project was good, so they get another project, and then there's more projects, and it just takes off like wildfire. And that's a rush. And that's one of the true rewards of entrepreneurship. It's not the money. If you're decent at this, you're gonna make money. All right, and if you build something that's just truly spectacular, someone's gonna buy it, and you're gonna make more money. At my age, the money's not the motivator whatsoever. I got to
Yeah.
have some other reason. So, yeah, it's the thrill. It's seeing the look on people's face and hearing the accolades once you did something that really meant something to them. And in this case, yeah, we should be on the cover of Time magazine if we figure this one out because it's going to make a huge difference in a lot of lives.
Oh yeah. It'll be huge. It'll be huge. I'm guessing that it's just a matter of time where you guys figure this out with the improvements, daily improvements of AI and things that
Mhm.
are becoming available now almost every day. It's just a matter of time. I'm
Yep.
guessing maybe by this time next year, you guys are going to have a much better product with much better accuracy and, you know,
Yeah, because it is an environment where it's before we come up with an idea, before we build this idea, let's see if it's already out there. And we've evolved to that situation now within AI. It's like we start taking mental health assessment really serious. Well, let's see who's doing it. Let's see what products there are. Maybe
absolutely.
we can just simply partner with them and incorporate their product in somehow with what we're doing instead of building it from the ground up. And that's new. That really is new in technology.
100%. William, do you consider yourself a reader?
Not really.
No, you don't read
And
books?
no, I think you asked me what my favorite business books are. There's probably 5. I've been lucky to be associated with gurus. When it comes to my presentation style and what I do on the stage, a guy named Jerry Weissman, who wrote a book called In the Line of Fire, was truly inspirational to me. And I had a chance to work with him at Microsoft. Um, uh, Mark Cavender and Jeffrey Moore at the Chasm Institute. I have read their books, but I know them. And every time I start a new company, they pick up the phone when I call. So I've been really lucky. There are a number, of books that I have read, but I've just been lucky on trying to find connections on people who truly are gurus in it. And each time it's because I offered them something. There was something they needed that I was able to offer. And in exchange, they come back whenever I need something.
Fantastic.
Mhm.
So, out of the books that you mentioned, what are your top 2 favorites that made a say big impact on life or your
Well,
business?
Crossing the Chasm was
Crossing the
definitely the
chasm.
one because when it comes to visualizing the business and the product and trying to figure out how to get it to market, the whole concept of there being a bell curve of technology adoption and there being a big hole in the bell curve, the chasm, and we may be really exciting because you just rolled out something and a bunch of people want to try it. And we've got the Gen AI product that we have. A bunch of people want to beta test it, but how many really want to pilot test it, and how many want to pay to test? Coming up that. So that was inspirational. And as Jerry Weissman's book, In the Line of Fire, is a book that everybody should read. It talks about the orators back in the Roman days, and the fact that they could talk for hours without missing a beat and without forgetting to do something. One of the techniques, I'll share something. The technique was, what they did is they identified each column in the building with something that they wanted to talk about, some important topic, and they would refer to that column to remind them of that. And so what I did after that, whenever I had a client call, so say I'm going to have an hour or more client call, and here's the 5 things that I want to remember to say, but I don't want to take my eyes off them and be looking at my notes when I'm that. So there's 5 things in my office now. There's a plant, there's a whiteboard, there's a door, there's a picture. Each one represents something that I want to talk about. So when I'm sitting there talking with them, I just need to reference. And what that does more than anything else is not just remind me what I want to talk about, it keeps me from forgetting something. I forgot to talk about the door. And so whatever that topic was, I don't hang up and go, crap, we're supposed to, this would have been the seller. He does a lot of things in that book, but that one piece has helped me so many times. If I'm on stage and I got 45 minutes and I want to make sure I don't miss anything, my ability to associate all my topics with something in the room and it looks completely transparent, that has been a secret.
Beautiful.
Not a secret now.
I'm gonna look that up. I'm gonna check it out.
In the Line of Fire. It's a small book, but yeah.
I'll check it out. In Line of Fire by Jerry Weissman.
Right.
Beauty. William, what's one piece of advice that made a big impact in your life or business?
Something I haven't said yet, huh? Wow. It was a guy named Chris Quinn. We worked together on HP's pricing strategy and Roche Diagnostics branding. And he talked about the N+1. The N being the solution you're trying to develop. So in this case, we're trying to build a solution that will help protect kids. N+1 is how that solution impacts additional audiences. So like if I was doing a sales program, N is my impact on that sales team. N+1 is my impact on the customer. So in this case, my impact on the student and their safety is my N. My N+1 is the parents. It's the superintendent. It's the people that have the pressure on this. The parent, and the theme that keeps running with us right now is the parents who watch the kids going in the school, and they want to know, is today the day that this school is going to end up on the news? Is today the day that my kid is at risk? Those kinds of things. Our ability to help them gain confidence. And that's what one of the administrators said. It's not about a matter about the kids being safe. It's about us feeling that they're safe. So that's the N+1. So if you walk into a pitch, into a proposal, client, whatever, and you can demonstrate to them very clearly that you can solve their problem, and how that solution ties onward to the next audience or to the next problem they're trying to solve, you will blow away the competition. And that has consistently been ours. We can only talk about school shootings for so long. Let me talk about the parents. Let me talk about what the superintendent's dealing with every time something goes wrong, because his whole life is about defending issues. I say the N+1 is the one that jumps out at me right now.
Beautiful. So I guess the idea there was who is the next audience, and I'm guessing who else could be impacted by this solution, not just your direct customer.
That's right.
What's what I would call the cascading effect onto the society and the people around them.
That's right. Well put. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Love it. Love it. That was beautiful. William, is there a question that I should have asked that I didn't ask?
It does. No. Does AI really work? Is it really intelligent? Um, that's a conversation we can have next, because I used to say, artificial intelligence really isn't. Um, it does some things. It does what we can do faster and more accurate, but it's not really thinking. And so when we design things, we have to keep that perspective in mind, especially the stuff we're doing now with Protect and more predictive AI. Um, that's the debate about AI, and there's a lot of different types of AI, which is important because you can't just say AI. It's like saying people. Well, there's a lot of different types of people. Um, so AI isn't yet. It's still got a long way to go.
Yeah, and we're in the early stages
Yeah,
still. It's like
yeah,
step one already.
it really
You
is.
know,
Yeah.
to some people it feels like magic, but I was just talking to a bunch of people. I'm like, wait for like 10 years and see what AI is going to do.
Hmm.
Right?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Fantastic. This was a great conversation. I learned a lot, and I'm sure the audience would love what we talk about. Where can people reach out to you and learn more about you, your company, and what you do?
LinkedIn's probably the easiest way.
Okay,
William West, Captain West, is the handle on my LinkedIn. I sail, and that's probably the best way versus email or anything else. I do monitor it and respond very quickly. So
beautiful.
yeah,
Do you guys have a company website?
yes, it is protechschools.com, and Protech is spelled Protech, schools.com, and
Schools with an
the
S at the end.
protechschools.com. Yeah, an S at the end. And the site's being revamped. The new one should be up by the end of this week.
Beautiful. So, gang, search for William West on LinkedIn if you want to reach out to William. And the website is Protech Schools with an S at the end.com. Protechschools.com. William, thank you very much. This was a great conversation. Hopefully, we could do another follow up after this, maybe a few months down the road, and see where you guys are at.
Yeah.
I would love to. I can't wait to see how you got how the development in AI and technology has like taken your service and what you guys do to some brand new level that did not exist, and it prevented so many violences like around the country and around the
Mhm.
globe. Oh, by the way, before I wrap up. Do you guys only operate in the U.S. or do you do other countries as well?
We'll go global. Right now, we're just U.S. But of
Okay,
course, it's the U.S. unfortunately has the big problem. But as we look at the technology and which direction it can go, we're starting with schools and colleges for the reasons we mentioned, but it's applicable in a lot of different environments, subways, the Olympics. There's going to be a lot of opportunities for us to look at other markets, and that'll include global eventually.
fantastic. Love it. Can't wait to see you guys progress
Thanks,
and flourish and expand internationally.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, William. Gang, thank you for watching and listening. You've been listening to another episode of the Executive Hub with my guest, William West. Yours truly, Mustafa Hosseini. Hope you guys have a great day, and we'll see you on our next episode. Bye now.
Bye.